Late. Well, okay. Here's notes. All right, that was the bell. So we're going to start. So say goodbye to phones. Catherine, let's hide that phone, please. We don't need it. There we go. I'll take that. All right, Zoe, come on in. Let's start at this time. All right, give y'all heads up. Agenda. Notes. It's going to be a homework activity. That's going to be given out towards the end of the period as well. Homework's not going to take too long. You should not need a whole lot of time to complete it. Next class, we're going to do the test review. Basically, I'm going to give out full notes and homework. Homework just put away for now, but don't lose it. Yeah, there was homework from last class too. That was a very quick prop. That was a quick activity. This one, that's going to be, the due date is going to be the day of the test, which is this Friday. Oh, no, that's the old one. Old one, if you have it complete, you can give it to me. Because basically, all right, take my password there, please. All right. So, game plan. Here we go. All right, come on. Valerie, kids. Can I end that conversation for now, please? Thank you. Good morning. All right. Today we're going to work on Unit 5, Day 4-5 notes. Basically, it looks longer than it really is. This is not as long as it looks. Packet, if we get through the packet, we should have enough time to get through. But that means we have to be on this like green on grass. Homework, that was the small packet. You understand what to do for the notes. Basically, if you know how to set up the proportion in the correct method, you got it. That's all it is. We're going to go over those methods today. Next class, test review. And then a following class. So, next class is a review that is Wednesday. And then Friday is your test. So, this is Wednesday, is a review. Friday is the test. So that's what we have coming up. This is the last of the new material. Next class, test review, and then test. Anybody, any questions on what our game plan is? Now, basically, if we know how to set up and solve proportions, today's class is going to be easy. It's just a matter of setting up what we need to set up. All right? So the sooner we start, the sooner we get this done. Now, first slide. One thing we need to do, and these are also going to be graded notes. So if you complete the notes, it's going to be quick 10-point grade. All right, so let's get ready. What we're going to be doing, one thing is going to be square roots. Here's the deal. On your calculator, depending on the type of calculator you have. You have one of those blue ones, it's a whole different story. Okay, Valerie, put that homework away for right now, please. That is not what we're doing. Okay, now some of these we can get right away. Square root of 64. Who can tell us what number times itself gives us 64? Anybody have an idea? So this is the bottom of the first page slide. Square root of 64. Whoever said 8 was correct. Because 8 times 8 gives us 64. What about 225? Anybody have an idea what the square root of 225 might be? 15. Very good. Square root 225 is 15. 15 times 15, 225. Now the last one, you're going to get a decimal. So depending on what type of calculator you have, if you have the Game Boy looking ones like what Edwin has, you have to hit the second X squared button, type in your number. Christian, your calculator, you type in the number, then you hit the square root button. That's how you're going to get your. So if you're not sure how to get the square root, depending on which calculator you have, let me know. But I think actually it might be easier on this little blue calculator. So okay, on your calculator, Valerie, you hit the second button. See that blue second button? Okay, hit the second button. Then go down to 1, 2, 3, 4. Too far. One more down. When it says X squared, you hit that button.
12.
And then type in 150. And it should be 12 something. All right, that's fine. 12.24, 12.25, 12.247. Yep. All right, yeah. Yeah, you ran in 2 decimal places. So about 12.247, 12.25, I would accept as well. Okay. But what we're gonna be doing a lot of square roots today. So there may be problems where you're not gonna get a perfect square root. Some of them you will, but some of them you will not. All right. But the name of the game for today is setting up a proportion. Once we set up proportion, solve, done. But the key is setting them up properly. So, all right. Don't worry so much about this slide right here. The only thing I want you to know is the altitude is distance from the top of the triangle straight down to the bottom. There's your altitude. Don't worry too much more about what is said. That's the only part I want you to worry about from this slide right here. Now, sometimes do beware. You have large triangle, which is the big one, and then you also have 2 smaller triangles. You have the large triangle, ABC, ACB, that's your large triangle. Boom, boom, boom. That's the large one. But don't forget, you're going to have 2 smaller triangles as well. So do beware. If you have CDB, that's the smaller one right here. And then you even have something that's. Then you have this other triangle right here that's even smaller than the other 2. But don't worry so much about that. So there are 3 triangles. You have the overall big one, and then you have the 2 smaller ones. So from here, all we're going to do, all I really want for today, giving them information, how we set up our proportion. That's all I'm worried about for today. Don't worry, we're not going to go too deep into the information. All right? Questions before we start? Now, the general rule is on the next slide. This is where we need to start worrying about the general rule. It's right here. So what's going to happen what's going to happen, and here is where labeling is going to be the key. And I think this one I'm kind of made a mistake because this one, it shouldn't say larger triangle. This should say the medium triangle. So cross out larger, write medium. But here is, I want everybody to understand, this is your proportion. But you use that for when you're given this type of information. So basically, the x, that's your quote, the altitude, that's the one. So here's the deal with the x. If you put your x, remember, when you set up your proportion, x goes diagonally for whatever value is here. Basically, take this value here, here, put it diagonally. If you do that, you're going to be good to go. So anytime you get a triangle, the two values are on the bottom, and you get that value in the middle that's going up, if you put your x, once you put your x diagonally, it does not matter where these two numbers go. But the key is, x goes diagonally. That's what I tell everybody. If you see the x going up and down, or whatever number goes up and down, you put that diagonally, either this way, or I know in this example they had the x and the x going that way. That's okay. As long as you know, if you see the x, whatever value's here, if it's x, it could be a number. If you put it diagonally, you're good to go. Because then it doesn't matter. If you put A here, B there. Or if you flipped it, if you put B here, A there, it's not going to matter. Because you know what matters the most? When you're diagonal multiplication. That's what's going to matter the most. It's real quick. A times B or B times A. You get the same result. That's the most important part. You got to get your diagonals. That's why, as long as you put the x or whatever number is here, as long as you put it diagonally, this number here, whatever it is, you put it here and there. You've got the setup right. That's the key. So we're going to practice a few of these. Basically, it's just a matter of where do I put this x or whatever. And then from there, for whatever variable it is. And then from there, as long as you put this one diagonally, the other two, these two, it don't matter. Put them diagonally, you got it made. All right, we're going to do a couple of these, and we're going to move on. And I think most of them were set up already for you. So if you go to the next page, I don't know if okay, I think I did. All right, this is good to go. Now, I think on your paperwork, I might have flipped it. I'm not sure. All right. We have our triangle here. Okay, you got all. Okay, kind of have it. I think I gave it to you all. The setup. So this is our setup for the first problem. Now, notice our x. That's the altitude. In fact, if you want to make your life easier, you want to do the general, I can tell you how you can make this real simple for you. Label your altitude. Valerie, you might want to listen up. Then, you want to get this right. Your altitude. As long as you get that part right, then these numbers, just separate them. You do 6 here, 8 there. Or, even if you went altitude, 6, 8. Either way, you're going to get a correct setup. Just as long as your altitude, whatever this value is going up and down, set it up diagonally. You have to, whatever you write here, basically copy paste. Or you have x, say the x, copy it, paste it. And then these two numbers, it don't matter where you put those two numbers in. As long as you know the altitude is diagonal. Whatever you write for the altitude, write it again, but diagonally. And then you got to correct proportion. And then everything else is just a math. Because when we do the math the rest of the way, you do your diagonal multiplication. Because what's 6 times 8? 6 times 8 is 48. Now x times x is x squared. And then this is why we did the square root situation. Very first few problems. Because some of these we're going to have to do square roots. So we'd have to take the square root of 48, which, anybody try it? Yeah, it's going to be somewhere around 6.928. And I'll give you 693 if you have it. The most important thing is going from here, diagram, to the mathematical proportion. Because then once you're here, then you're good to go. And I think homework question number 1 is going to be just like that. As long as you know, when you set up, whatever your altitude is, if you put the altitude here, and copy it, put it directly diagonal, it does not matter where those two numbers go. As long as you keep them diagonal from each other, then you got it. That's how simple it is. Questions so far?
Wait, what? I think you get...
Square root of 48. That's calculator. Yeah, that's square root of 48. Boom, that's how you get 6.93. And if you're not sure how to get... All right, remember, in your calculator, number 2, the second button, go to where x squared is, type in your number. All right, questions so far? Well, it was 6.928, right? And we just rounded up to 6.93. But if you wrote 6.928 something, that's cool. It's about the same. All right, questions. So again, set up. All right, if you look at the next one, it's going to be slightly different. Because unlike, and I don't know if I set it up for, might be looking a little different on you. Now, unlike before, your altitude is not the variable. It's actually the number. You know how the previous one is a variable? Yeah, you're good. Just come right here. We're working on that problem right there. So, you're good, sir. Now, the altitude was this one here. This problem, the altitude's the actual number. Again, anytime you get a diagram that looks like this, now I think for this one, we kind of did it reverse. They put the altitude and the altitude, they had it going this way. But again, you can do it this way. As long as you remember, you have to have your altitude write it twice, but remember, it has to be diagonal. You can have all altitude over whatever equals whatever over altitude. Now remember, you can flip these. Kind of like what we had here. Blank over altitude. I'm just filling in, like these zeros mean blanks. Altitude, blank. You just fill in a blank with whatever's on the bottom. Again, the key is, remember, your altitude is this number right here. For the first example, as long as you have your altitude, if you write it twice but diagonal, it don't matter where these other two go. Because we're going to put the A here and the X there. That's okay. Because you could have done it like, we could have had 8X. Because in the end, does it matter when we multiply 8 times X or X times 8? Order's not going to matter once you get the multiplication. As long as you get this set up here, as long as you get this set up, as long as you know that whatever you have here, boom, boom. As long as you have that part, these two, just fill in a blank with however you want to fill it in. And whatever you miss, get from a neighbor, okay? And then, once we're here, we know how to solve for the proportion. And in this case, this one's actually going to be real easy. It's going to be 12 times 12, 144. Divide both sides by 8. Boom. 18 should be your X. And that's all you have to do for that problem. Again, the key is going from here to here. And the most important key is that altitude.
How come the other one was just from the square root?
Because with the previous one, it was an X. So we had to do X times X. But since this one, all we do was a number. That's the key difference. Good question, Valerie. But you got it right. Because the altitude here, since it was a number, we just multiply the number by itself. And then divide by this guy, bang. That's how you get it. But the key is getting this part. And let me change it up real quick. So I want to circle the right thing. Altitude. The key is getting that altitude. Okay, questions? Anybody have questions up to this point? Again, no more go. Altitude, write it twice, but write it diagonal. If you get that part, then it doesn't matter. As long as you fill the blank diagonally. Or if you put these guys diagonal and the altitude diagonal, you got it. All right, other questions? All right. 8 is the same. However, it's a little different with number 8. This is where we're gonna have to fill in some blanks. So what's our altitude in this case? Is it the variable? What's going up and down? Look at that diagram. What's going up and down? Which is x. There's your altitude right here. There's your altitude. Boom. So for these type of problems, always circle that altitude first. Okay, that's a good question. What's the blank? This blank is 5. Reason being, unlike the previous ones, we gave you the entire distance. 20 was the entire distance from this point all the way to here. But since we have 15 from here to here, this spot right here has to be 20 minus 15. So that blue box gets a 5. Now do we have enough information?
Wait.
Go ahead. Talk.
Oh, it's because in total it's 20, so it's subtracted.
Yeah. That's why we bingo. You got it. Then again, remember, altitude. Just remember to put your altitude twice. But remember, it has to be diagonal. Don't put the x here, put it across. Altitude, diagonal. And then these two, it doesn't matter where you put the other two. Because as long as you have the altitude diagonal to each other, boom, you got it made. That's what I would worry about the most. Don't worry so much about small and medium triangle. Don't do that. I mean, it kind of helps, but I think this idea is better because get the altitude, set it up, boom. Now the only difference is this one, you couldn't put 20, the entire length, but you can't put the 20 there. That would have been the one mistake. You had to get this number. Then you use a 5 and 15. And now, we do our diagonal multiplication. Because x times x, we agree is x squared, right? Now, what else do we have to multiply? What two numbers are we multiplying on the right side of the equal sign? What two numbers do we have to multiply? Look at that. Look right here, people. What two numbers are we going to multiply? Got to multiply 5 and 15. 5 times 15, 75. And then what do we have to do to get the x? Square or square root 75. It's going to be 8.66. Very good. .66 something. And that keeps on going forever and ever. But again, most important part, you got to get that set up right here. Remember, altitude, write it twice, but write it diagonally. And then these two, diagonally. But beware. So rather than 20, 15, it's just 5 and 15. All right, questions? So I know you have at least one homework problem of this type. Again, if you know altitude, you get that part? That's going to be quick and easy. All right, the next two get a little tricky. And here's what it is. also have, now you have to be a little more careful with these next type of problems. I'm going to tell you why. Anytime you get this side, now we got to be a little more careful. Anytime you get, as long as it's not the base, well, here's what you need to do. If you want, here's how you can make this very easy. You want to go general trend. I'm going to show you another way, which is going to make your life a whole lot easier. Whatever you get here, depending on how you want to label it, I would still always go whatever value you get. If it's a slant side, you want to call this left slant, you can. Slant, left side slant. However you want to nickname it. You can nickname it. What might be, if you have an easier nickname, let us know. If you want to use left slant, if you want to use left slope, think about it like a mountain. This is the left slope, that's the right slope. If you want to go like skiing, if you want to use that word, I'm down with whatever word or words are easiest for you. Slant, slope, however you want to set it up. Just tell me. But here's the deal. Always put your slant. It's similar to the other two. Left slant. Write it twice. Write it diagonally. Now, the other part. Here's where you're going to get. You want to, I'm just trying to figure it out, so rather than what I've typed here, this might be easier for you. This is all about the picture. This part right here. Here is one part of your overall proportion. So if you want to write, it's over 8. However, this part here, you have to take the total. Base total. Looks like this. I just flipped it. You could have, this and this are the same. Just giving everybody a heads up. The only part that you really need to remember, ladies and gentlemen, is just you have to add these two. Put it right there. Just add them. If you know, left slant, write it twice, but diagonal. Take the value of A, put it right below. But then the only part you need to remember is to add your bases. That's the only part you really need to remember. Add your bases, and that's it. If you know that part, so it's whatever's slant, write it twice. Whatever's directly under the slant, that's part of your proportion. And then the other part, add your bases. That's the quickest way you can knock out these types of problems. And I know that's another homework problem, but if you understand, we'll practice some of this. If you understand that part, you got it. And some of these triangles are going to be flipped a little. So I think not the next side, but the following side is going to flip. But you can have similar numbers. So I think there's going to be another problem where I think some of the numbers are the same. We'll get there in a minute. I think I know where you are. All right, here we go. Let's set this up first. I got an idea. Rather than looking at this, look at how we do it over here. Right away, which is your left slant? But the X is the left slant. You have to identify left slant is the X. So right away, what is going to be one part of our, actually, let's get it real easy. What's going to be one part of our proportion right away? Just look at the diagram. What's one part right away? Don't even look at this. Say that don't exist. I'll tell you what to fill in there in a second. But right away, what's one way we can set up our proportion? X over 7. Boom. Now, this X, where's this X going to go? Is it going to go to the right? Or is it going to go diagonal? Diagonal. Boom. There you go. Left slant. You do 7 plus 21. That's what's going to go on the top. Very good. 7 plus 21. Yes. 28 is going to go on the top. Yup. That's exactly what you do. There you go. That's what you do. Now, here is the same. Even though basically what happened was we flipped it. If you wrote, you could have done it X over 7, 28 over X. That's fine. That's the same proportion in the end. The only thing that would have flipped was X times X would have been here, X squared there, final value of X there. Everything would have been flipped. Like, this would have been written here, but you're still going to get the same answer. You will get the same answer regardless. So again, even if you wrote left slant here, X over 7, and then both of your bases. Or, if you want to be real, that's another way you could do it. And then from there, do your multiplication. What's 28 times 7? Who knows what 28 times 7 is? 196. How much? 196. Perfect. And then what would be the square root of 196? Bingo. There you go. Now, go ahead, tell us, what's up?
Compare the X times X.
Because 28 times 7. Okay, if you did 28 times 7, I'm gonna write it down. My fault. 28 times 7. I'm not gonna dock you if you went straight to 196. But if you wrote 28 times 7 in that box, then 196. Chévere. Chéverísimo. All right? Good to go. Okay, questions on this one? Again, you went this way. You did it like this to get the same thing. You'll still get the same result. Everything would have just went opposite side. It would have been 14 equals x, or 96 equals x squared. That's okay. You'll still get the same thing. As long as you understand here to here, then you solve. Next one's going to be a little tricky. So, are we good with this problem? Okay, next one gets a little tricky. Because everything is upside down. Now, could we still do slants and all that? You can still do that. Because you can do it one of two ways. Now, this one's going to be a little different. It turns out we're going to have to do a little more work, but I will tell you what to do. I think this one, like this one, we got a little more work to do, but it's not going to be so bad. And although I'm looking at it now, I'm going to show you a better way to do this. What I would do, put a big fat X over this whole thing. Put a big fat X. Big fat X. I'm going to tell you why. It's going to be a similar setup. But let's just focus, given what we get from the diagram. I think it's going to be easier from the diagram. So here's what we do. Again, you have your left slant. Now, unlike before, they flipped it on us. They flipped that left slant. But are we still okay though? We're still okay. Because right away, we can still do x over 10, right? 10 over x over 10? You can still do this. Now, so our left slant is the 10. Now, the left slant, I said we need to copy and paste somewhere, right? So this is our left slant. I can rewrite it, but am I rewriting the left slant here or there? Is that bottom or top of the second one? Be careful. Careful. Left slant. Look at the previous problem. Where did we tell everybody? The left slant. We keep it on the same level, or do we go diagonal? Gotta go diagonal. So where's the left slant going? Bottom or top? You gotta put that left slant on the top. Boom. That's how we have to put it. All right, now this one, this is gonna get a little trickier. It turns out this is gonna be a little trickier than I had anticipated. Actually, no. This is actually going to be real easy. You know why? Okay. You know how the base You know how we have to take the sum of the two bases, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if the overall base is 24, let's say we started with 24, but if we took away x, right? How would we originally write this part? So you took away x, what's remaining? 24 minus what? Say overall 24, right? But we covered x amount. How do we determine the remaining amount? What do we have to do with the 24 and the x? Check them out. What do we have to do with this remaining amount? Overall, 24. Okay? Almost. Okay, you started with 24. So overall, we went 24 miles. And here we went x miles. So we went, all right, let's redo it. Let's think about it this way. Here to here, 24 miles. We agree? We go from here to here, we covered x miles, right? Then, what's the remaining amount? What do we have to do with the 24 and the x to get the remaining amount? Not multiply. Not divide. We have to subtract. So x, let's say you were driving 24 miles, but you only went x miles. The remaining distance is 24 minus 6. Now, everybody was told we need to add our bases, right? Take the sum of the bases, yeah? However, if we add x plus 24, but then we take away the x, what's really left? Just 24. So in the end, this 24 is going to be on the bottom. Is the x minus x, they cancel out. So you're going to have 24 over 10, 10 over x. So that would have been this. And that's not wrong either. The only reason why I wanted to do it this way is I just want everybody to see it like a picture. As I did it this way, I realized, no, this is probably going to be the better way to set this problem up. However, now we're at a point some of the bases. Because sometimes you might have to do that. But in the end, he actually had some of the base the whole time. Some of the entire base is 24. And now we're at a point. Can we solve for this x? Yeah. We can solve for the x at this point. You will get a decimal. Because what's 10 times 10? 10 times 10? 100. Equals, what's x times 24? X times 24 is 24x. And then we solve for the x by doing what the both sides of the equal sign. Get to the d. Divide. You're going to get something a little more than like 4 point something, right? Mm-hmm. So x is what? 4 point. Huh? Which one? In the end, it would be the same. So 24 over 10, 10 over x, we would have gotten the same result. So if you did it this way, you should be all right. So let's see, who divided 100 by 24? What do we get? You're going to get like 4.16 with a repeat bar or something. But yeah, if you did it this way, you would have been okay. The reason why I did it this way turned out because given the picture. Given the picture, it might have been easier doing it this way. And in fact, this may have been too much work. Because the sum of the overall base was 24. But the purpose was I want everybody to see. You have x, and you have your whole distance. You take away the whole distance minus x. That's how you get your remaining part. That's just a general rule. All right, questions on this problem. That was a little tricky. You're not going to get something as tricky as that. Then the next couple of problems are going to be same idea. The only difference is the following. Rather than the slant is on the left, the slant is on the right side. So basically, you call this the right slant. Boom, there's half your proportion right there. Right slant. So then, where am I going to put this x for the other half of the proportion? Is it going to be directly across, or is my x going to go down here? But what do we say about the x's? They need to be where's that x supposed to be? Just like before. Once you get your right slant, you got to put your right slant diagonal or vertical. Yep, like a vertical angle. Okay, I see where you're going. That's cool. And then here, some of the bases. Boom. There you go. That's what's going to happen. Basically, it's the same idea. And then right away, you get your first. Here's your first ratio. X over B. Remember this x. For the right slant, you have to make it diagonal. And then add your bases. So give you two bases. And then that's basically the same way. It's the same idea. All right, questions on on this type of problem, because we're going to start the next two problems are going to be just like this. Right slant, remember, whatever the right slant is, make it diagonal. And then boom, here's your first part of your proportion. And then the second part of the proportion, add your two bases. That's what goes in the last pot. Then you're home free. You got your proportion. Again, it's all about the setup. Any questions before we get going? We'll do the next two problems real quick, and then we're going to start talking about something else. All right. Here, all right. This one, okay, you kind of have the same idea. Boom, there's your first. There's your first ratio. B over 56. That's what we get here. Then, of course, there's your right slant. There's your right slant. So again, right slant. Right slant. And then you take your base. And then, what's going to go up here? Is it just the 7? Or do we have to add the 7 and the 56? What do we have to do with these two numbers? Just like before. Add them up. You're going to take the sum of these two numbers. That's what's going to go right here. Boom. So what's 7 plus 56? 63. Add the size of the big base or sum of the bases. There you go. Now are we at a point where we can solve for our variable b? That's right. We can knock this out real quick. So, what two numbers do we multiply? 63 times 56. Which gives us what number? 63 times 56 is, remember we have calculators right in front of us. How much? 2,528. And last but not least, we have to square root that. Now you will get a decimal. You take the square root of 3528. So it's going to be, so 59.396. You went 59.4. I'm okay with that too. So that's your value of B. Boom. Okay, questions on that problem? Again, the key is get that set up. There's your first part right here. And then take this guy, write it again. Write the right slant, diagonal. And then this last part, sum of the bases. Questions? All right. Last one of this type. And this one's going to be a little tricky. I don't know how we set it up on you. I think the setup's the same on the next one. Go to the next side. All right. Here's your right slant. This should be a Y rather. So for this one, the B's should be Y's. There's your right slant. Boom. Boom. Now, we don't know this number yet, but can we figure out that number? So the overall is 60. So the sum of the bases is 60. We agree. The sum of the bases 60. It goes from one end all the way to the other. So that's 60. So the 60, you're going to put up here. We need to figure out that number. But can we figure out this number? You can. It's 20. Good job. What's 60 minus 40? That's how we get our 20. Boom. There you go. Now you're just like before. What's your first one? Y over 20. And then equals, remember the Y you have to rewrite. No. Okay, real quick. The Y you just have to rewrite. Remember diagonally. Let me change this up a little. But it's not bad. No. Y, 20. Boom. Y's on the bottom. Again, here's your right slant. Right slant. Boom. Total. What's the total in this case? Total of the bases. Okay. You got our 60 here. Okay, I know where you were going. No, you're good. Because in the end, what's 60 times 20?
60 times 20.
Yeah.
1200.
Yeah.
1200. Okay. And then we put 1200. And then we take the square root of 1200. What would be the square root of 1200? I think 34.461? 641. All right. I'm good with that. Do we agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Again. There you go. There's your setup. You got it. You good. All right, questions? Get that set up. You get the setup, you got it made. Now, the last ones that we're going to be doing, they're going to actually, it gets easier. Because I'm going to tell you right now, it's just going to be stack and go. You might get one or two. But on your homework, as long as you understand the general trend, altitude, and then the basis, or right slant, left slant, as long as you understand those three parts, you got it made. Now, the next set of problems, basically the rest of these, it's just going to be proportion. On 15, slide 15, they're just saying basically if you have two parallel lines, basically that's all you're doing. Take your diagram, you're setting up proportion. We're going to do this. Same thing with 16. Don't worry about that. We're going to just work in action. Basically, it's just a general information. But I'm just telling you, it's basically stack and go. Stack and go. So here, whatever you get here, there's your one part. Here, there is another. What they might also do, here and here, the entire distance. They might do that too. And then 16, same thing. Basically, this part, that part, proportional. Or they might say, this part, total. This part, total. All right, so basically, 17. Basically, here's your general rule. Here's how they set this up. Boom, oops, hold on. There's your first proportion, x over 4. That's where they get that part. We see x over 4. Bang. And then equals 12 over 16. There's your second proportion. Boom. If x over 4 equals 12 over 16. Are we at a point we can solve for the x? All right, hit it real quick. Well, what's 4 times 12? Who can tell us what 4 times 12 is? 48. 4 times 12? 48. And then what's 48 divided by 16? 3. Interesting. That's all you have to do for these types of problems. Basically, set it up. Here's your one ratio. Set it equal to the other. Boom. Knock it out. That's all. That's how quick it's going to be. Next problem is going to be the exact same thing. So that's all you need to know. Set up. Questions on that problem? All right, next one. Basically, they did the same thing. Boom. There's your first proportion. Boom. There's your second proportion. There you go. That's all you have to do. Yeah, it is that easy. Now you will get a decimal for the x. Again, 6 times 5, what's 6 times 5? 30. 8 times x is 8x. Then of course we divide both sides by 8. So what's 30 divided by 8? That's it, there you go. That's all you do. Basically, stack and solve. That's all we're going to be doing for the rest of these types of problems. Stack, solve. So really quick, there's on the previous slide, 17, stack, solve. Like whatever numbers you see, I'll show you real quick. You know how you see the x on the top, 4 on the bottom? There's your first proportion. Says like this, there's your equal sign. 12 over 16, bang. And then for 18, same thing. 6 over x equals 8 over 5, boom. That's all you do. Yeah, same thing. The one difference was triangle was shooting up rather than shooting to the right or the left. No. All these other ones are going to be like the same thing too. So in the next couple slides, all right, I think I don't. Here is going to be the same idea. Make it real simple. You have one of two options. What you see here, boom. That's all you're doing. It can be similarly said if you went the other way. So if this, let's say if it was going like if the diagram was going like this. 1, 2, 3. Same thing would be happening. It would have been this part over that part equals this part over that part. That's all it is. It's basically set up, solve. It's stack and solve, stack and go. This is just general info. It's all going to be stacked, solved. I'll show you real quick. When you're ready, when everybody's ready, we'll go to the next one. Ladies in the back, are we ready? Oops, he's got shot a little. Again, same thing, here you go. A over 20. Boom, there's your first ratio. Here's your equal sign. 9 over 15. There you go. That's all you're doing. That's all it is. Here's your setup. And then we're ready to go. What's 9 times 20? Oops. Hold on. Let me just write that. Which is, Alex, I think I heard you say. And then what's 180 divided by 15? Divide both sides by 15, we get A is what number? So 180 divided by 15 is 12. There you go. That's all it is. That's all these problems are. That's all. Basically, stack, solve. These last few are going to be stack and solve. All right. 21. Same thing. Stack, solve. There you go. There's your 6 over 8. Seven 5 over x. And there you go. Then you do your diagonals. What's 8 times 7.5? What do we get? What's 8 times 7.5? You can tell us. Type in those calculators, 8 times 7.5. We should be doing that. How much? 60. Thank you, Annalyn. And then what's 60 divided by 6? 10. There you go. Done. That's all you have going on here. The next one, you're going to have to do some fill in the blanks. Really quick with the next one. All right, this one's going to be a little more work. Now, they gave us the distance from A to C as 35. I have 20 from A to B. So what are we going to put from B to C? If 35 is the total distance from A all the way down to C. So from A to B, we went 20. How much more do we need to go to get from 20 to 35? So, driving 35 miles. So far, we've driven 20. How many more miles do we need to drive? 15. Boom. Now this one is one way you can set up this proportion. Who wants to tell us just one way? What's one way we can set up this proportion? Take a guess. So that's what you're going to put on the top? That's fine. Well, up to you.
I'll put 20 over 15.
Okay. You can do that. And then what else is going to go here? So 20 over 15, that's fine.
35 over 10.
Remember, 35 was just 20 plus 15. This point just take, so we have 20 over 15. That's one of them. So then the other one is, I'll give you a hint. Here's your other one. There's your other proportion. What's that? Yeah, you're going to have to solve it. So 7x minus 11, 4x minus 2. That's one way you could have done it. Some of you could have written this, if some of you wrote 7x over 11, 20, 4x minus 2 over 15, I would have taken that too. So these two are going to be the same. We'll get the same either way. So here's what I'll do. In the end, you got 80x minus 40. This would have been 105x minus 15 times 11 is 165, I think. So this would have, as long as you get this part. Now, on your test, I don't think I'm going to go that far. And I'll be real nice. What's up?
Would it be the same answer if you solve those two if you solve DE and EF, it'd be like 20 over 15 and 3.
X over 3. No, this one's gonna be a little more work. Not a bad idea. I think I'm right. I want to say X will be 5. I'll just give you the answer. Only because I really want us to focus on the last couple. You can try this one at home. But the name of the game is, anytime we have expressions, put parentheses around the expression. So either way you set it up, this would have been your next line. And there would have been some distributions, such that you would have gotten this part here. In the end, there would have been a 5x equals 25. And then x would have been 5. 26 over 18. 24 over 18. Yeah, that would have worked. All right. So once you get the setup, we're good. It's not going to be as complicated. I don't think your test is going to have something this complicated. Maybe on a review, but even then, it's not going to be this complicated. I didn't realize. All right, really quick, the last two. With the angle bisectors. Basically, it's the same idea. Basically, here's how your equal sign is going to be. Whatever's here equals whatever's here. That's going to be your setup. So for the angle bisector, now your triangle could also be this way. If your triangle is this way, you could also set it up where boom, these two guys over those two guys. That's how easy this one is. So really quick, I think I might have switched it up a little on your last slide. I don't know. But basically, in the end, maybe, okay. Did I switch it up a little? Oh, no, you got the right one. Basically, boom. 18 over 12 is 24 over x. That's how we get them. 18 over 12, 24 over x. Everybody see 18 over 12? 24 over x. This one might, okay. But if you solve real quick, who can give us 12 times 24? 288. And then 288 divided by 18? 16. The last problem is just about the same. Basically, the last problem's the same. Now, this one you had to do a little work. X over 42 equals 35 over something. But you got to get this number right here. It's 28 because grand total is 70. This part right here, 70 minus 42. And there you go. X over 42, 35 over 28. And then here, x over 42, 35 over 28. So it's x times 28, 35 times 42. And then real quick, what's 35 times 42? Who can tell us what 35 times 42? Oh, I forgot the 28x here. So it's 28 times x. So what's 35? So really quick, what's 35 times 42?
14.
Say it again? All right. So 1,470 equals 28x. Do we divide both sides by 28?
Yes.
I think you get a decimal maybe.
52.5.
How much was it again? 52.5. Okay. All right. Now the homework, which is that other packet, you should be given the, I think I gave everybody the steps. Basically, the slides and the steps are right there. I already gave you the steps for the first one. Again, here's your altitude. All right, real quick before you go. Oh, I think this is the same. Probably too same from the notes. Thank you. Thank you. If you have Unit 5, Day 3 homework, I can give it to you. I'll take it. Let me see real quick. Okay. All right, this one is the same idea. Yeah, they're all going to be stack and solve. That's all you're doing, stacking and solving the rest of the way. Thank you. Okay, this homework assignment you should be able to complete. Given all the notes, this part number 2 might be the toughest, but then it gets easier. Everything else, 1 we did at the beginning, 3, 4, 5, stack and solve.